The Erewash Valley Line was once a bustling artery of coal and industry, taking goods through the heart of Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire. To serve the industry, rail connections shot off from the main line in all directions right the length along the railway line. And in this video, I have come to uncover 4 lost railways that did indeed once connect to the Erewash Valley Line, now left to nature and time. From abandoned track beds and overgrown sidings to hidden remains that few have seen. Join me as we look at the lost railways of the Erewash Valley Line. And every single one of these lines that I'm going to look at can be accessed from the Erewash Canal. And right beside Eastwood Lock on the Erewash Canal, you may have walked down here before and noticed some stone bridge supports and wondered what they were. You might have known what they were. Well, this is the first location today, and it's a small spur, a little branch of the former Midland Railway into Eastwood Colliery that used to be just to my right. Thanks to Rail Map Online, I can show you where we are. So this is Eastwood Lock just here, and you see this yellow line going through the centre of the map. That is the Eastwood Colliery branch, and that goes down and connects onto the Erewash Valley Line, which is active today. Now, where Eastwood Colliery was, there's also a second railway line coming in, and that was operated by the Great Northern Railway, and that joined on down here where the main track bed is. That is occupied today by the A610 road. If we look at this map from the mid-1800s, you can see both track beds coming in. You've got the Nottingham Canal on the right and the Erewash Canal on the left. Eastwood Colliery smack bang in the middle. The Eastwood Colliery branch showing track down and sidings into the colliery site. Notice where the Nottingham Canal is, it says swing bridges. So we've got to assume that the railway line from the Great Northern Main Line was operated with a swing bridge over the Nottingham Canal. But more about this later. This particular map from the early 1900s, you can see the track beds have all but gone. The Midland Railway line beside the lock, that seems to come to an abrupt end, and the colliery and sidings have all but vanished. The Great Northern Railway's track bed seems to come to an abrupt end where it says swing bridge. I'm assuming the bridge for the track has now gone at this stage. As you can see, the track bed in the centre appears to be barren and without rails. We're coming away from the lock as the towpath dips down. Right in front of me, you can see a couple of stone sections, look, and this was the former branch that came away from the Erewash Valley Line, less than a quarter of a mile, maybe even an eighth of a mile. Turning off to the left, it joined on just a little way down there, the way the drone is showing you now. So right next to us, look, we've got this first stone support, this stone filler, and there is the bywash that would go around the lock that we've just been looking at, Eastwood Lock, just up there. And you can get a better view of the angle that this bridge actually took. As we peer across where the canal is, the Erewash Canal, there is in fact more stone supports on the other side. So there are in fact at least 3 of them. I'm unsure if there's a 4th one actually beyond the bywash we've just been looking at. But as this track bed came across at a slightly diagonal skew angle, it would have come across this way and just turned off to the left around there where the colliery was. And the good thing is that just to my right there is in fact a little path that's been worn down that could take us onto the former spur of track bed just beyond the canal. Let's go and have a look. And I can get myself over the bywash and it will in fact bring us up to the track bed. Now look, this is fantastic. So there was in fact a 4th support. We've got a coping stone on there, look. And just to the left, look, looks like there's an old post. It's definitely a square section, so it's not the remains of a tree. So maybe a boundary post of some kind. And from here, that section of wall goes up, and it looks pretty much a similar height to the 4th one that was out of view just over there. So if we push on around here, we can get ourselves up onto this former track bed. Oh, this is quite remarkable, isn't it? It's only a small section, but it's still a bit of railway history that is often overlooked, I imagine. This wasn't the only branch that served the Eastwood Colliery just here, there was in fact a spur coming off the Great Northern Line, which is the A610 over there, and it curves around to the left. There's a tree line just there, as you can see from this drone footage, and miraculously both alignments of the track beds into this former pit are still here. The track bed does dip down, and it didn't go very far, and I assume it's all been landscaped, although down here it looks like it's gonna go down again. So as I've stood down in the dip, you can see where the Midland Railway branch comes in at that angle. Would have been a slight junction behind them trees that you can't see, and the one I'm about to run up and have a look at, there you go, look. So it's like in a kind of a V shape, isn't it? So could this in fact be the track bed for the Great Northern Line? Oh wow, look at this. Now I did not expect this. So this is that spur of the Great Northern Railway that joined onto the line that is now the A610. Didn't expect to see this. Let's follow it. So this is indeed a hidden beauty, isn't it? I was unaware of this one. I knew about the bridge that we've just been looking at, but as for this track bed that I'm walking now, I have absolutely no idea that you could do this. So as it snakes its way along, it is gradually taking a left turn, and I'm wondering if this will go all the way to the former Great Northern Main Line. Okay, I had a feeling that this was where that path we just walked along, the former track bed, was going to bring us. I'm stood on the abandoned Nottingham Canal. That's another video series that I'm going to be doing very, very soon. So the track bed clearly came out here and crossed over where the Nottingham Canal once was. It's still here. You know, there's still water in this section. Just beyond here, there's nothing remaining of the track bed, but it is the A610. So that's where that part of the railway does in fact come to a conclusion. So now heading back away from the Nottingham Canal, back towards Eastwood Lock on the Erewash Canal, and we'll take one last look at that Midland Railway branch that we started at the very beginning. So passing over the canal momentarily, with Eastwood Lock to my right, there is a stile look just here. And for a little way, I'm not actually sure which way the footpath goes. It looks like it's that way, the way it's trodden down, so I'm not going to start walking across this field. But just here you can see another example and idea of where that track bed curved around in order to meet up with the Erewash Valley Line just a little way down here. So there you have it, the former bridge that carried the Eastwood Colliery branch over the Erewash Canal and also into the former pit a little way up there. So now it's time to push on along the Erewash Canal in search of our second destination, and this time I'm going to look at a lesser known track bed, a former industrial tramway that was once operating at a local pit that was operational before Bennerley Viaduct was built. So with Bennerley Viaduct to my right hand side, the Erewash Canal to my left, right about here there used to be a very small coal wharf for the canal boats that would serve this track bed that went off towards the pit. And it's potentially only big enough for a single narrowboat right up to the side of the Copmanhey Canal Bridge. So in order to follow our industrial tramway, I need to go off the canal itself and head below the railway. The red line is the Derbyshire and Staffordshire extension of the Great Northern Railway, and Bennerley Viaduct is just here. Bennerley Ironworks, and later what was become the coal screening plant, was just here below the viaduct, and all those yellow lines, the main one being the former Bennerley and Bulwell Railway off towards Bulwell in Nottingham, and the internal sidings. This turquoise one, that is the line that went up to the coal pits near where the wind turbine is today. And if you follow it down, it does indeed pass under the Erewash Valley Line and joins onto the canal where there was a tiny wharf. We can see it from this older map it says tramway just here where I've circled, and the Erewash Canal being on the left, and on the right hand side it says old coal pits and clay pits, and again it says tramway, look, just there. The Bennerley and Bulwell Railway Line is apparent, as is Bennerley Railway Viaduct. So many of you, like myself, has probably walked along this path many times, and I just assumed it was a footpath, maybe originally farm access, completely unaware of its original purpose. So heading in this direction towards the Erewash Valley Line, we will eventually pass below it. It's very straight, but when we get down here, it should sharply kink to the right. I can just make out the windmill behind the track bed in the foreground there, and I believe we're at that 90-degree turn pretty much just ahead. And here it is, look, dead ahead. We've got the Erewash Valley going straight across the top, and the track bed of our former industrial tramway passing below, look. So it's going to be the original blue brick and stonework, isn't it? Whether that above is the original, I'm not sure. But the amount of times I've passed below this, and I just assumed it was a footpath. And it is quite long, isn't it? I mean, I believe there's 4 tracks above us, or at least there was. We could come out the other side and we should have a view of fields on both sides, and windmills to my left and Bennerley Viaduct to my right. So once out of the underpass below the active Erewash Valley Line, the track bed proceeded on towards what is now a windmill dominating the space of the former pit. And all those fields around the windmill was once the pit that occasionally served the Bennerley Ironworks. So I'm now going to leave this area behind. We've looked at number 2 on our tour of disused railways that are hidden along the Erewash Valley Line. Now going to head off towards the area known as the Gallows Lock and Gallows Inn, and a road known as Furnace Lane. I'm now coming up to Gallows Lock, and on my left hand side there used to be the Erewash Valley Ironworks. That closed long ago, but it did in fact have an industrial and an internal railway system, plus the connection to the current Erewash Valley Line. I'll jump to historical maps and show you what was once here, because there's nothing else that remains today. Back to Rail Map Online, and the yellow line going from top to bottom is the Erewash Valley Line, and you see on the left hand side there's a mixture of turquoise and yellow thin lines. These were the internal lines going into the Erewash Vallyey Works, and the turquoise ones being internal tram lines or narrow gauge lines that also served this foundry. You can see the Erewash Canal on the left and the Nottingham Canal on the right, and the Erewash Vallyey Works is situated right by the railway line that we've just been looking at on the previous map, and you can see a rough outline of all those different buildings that were on this site. Here's an old picture taken from the A609 road overbridge. Trowell station is in the foreground, and you can just make out some wagons and sidings that would have served this foundry. The footbridge in the background is still present today. Another angle, although a little bit blurred, you can see the platform of the station, some coal wagons heading north, and those sidings again. And this particular one was taken from that very footbridge. Lots of sidings on the right hand side, and you can just make out the station platform on the left. So down there is Furnace Road, and there was sidings that I've just shown you on the map. From Furnace Road there was a connection going across to the Erewash Valley Line just there. There's also one a little bit further down. Okay, it's time to head back to Gallows Lock, and I'm going to push on and find our fourth and final location, known as Trowell Forge. On my left was the River Erewash, and beyond that was Trowell Forge, and that was served by the railway and the canal, operated by the Nottingham Ironmonger Company, D. New and Company, from 1873 until 1893. And when I say served by the canal, it was similar to that industrial tramway, what we looked at near Bennerley Viaduct, the one that served the coal pit. Just along here, there was in fact another wharf, a very small wharf, maybe took around about 3 boats at a time. And that came in from a railway line from Trowell Forge, the other side of the River Erewash. So I need to go and find the route towards Trowell Forge, and that should be just a little way down here. Now, if you lived around Trowell for many years, or Ilkeston, or the vicinity of Gallows Lock, you may have walked this route away from the canal, passing over the River Erewash many times in the past. But what you may not have been aware of was where that footbridge is. Just to the side of that was the former track bed that joined onto the canal. And all this in front of me is the grounds and site of Trowell Forge that opened over 150 years ago. Now, it's remarkable to think that all of this was abandoned, disused and closed, wow, before the 1900s. It's astonishing, isn't it? Now, coming away from where the bridge crossed the Erewash, just behind those bushes, you've got this mound just here. And what actually happened here was the track bed around the forge, it looped all the way around the site and then joined on just over there where Trowell Junction is today. And as I step down beside where I just was on that embankment, you can still see that line of trees looping around on an embankment. And it is crazy to think that we're looking at a track bed just here that probably closed around about 130 years ago. I mean, I could be very much mistaken, but this hump of land appears to go all the way around and then some over there back towards the active main line. So let's take a look at Rail Map Online and also an historical map to try and piece together what this area really did look like. One final look at maps, and you've got Trowell Junction on the right hand side with the line off towards Nottingham on the right and the one bottom centre going off towards Towton and Long Eaton. Now, on the left of Trowell Junction you can see an oval shape of yellow lines. It looks like a running track, doesn't it, that you find in a sports field. This is the line that circled the Trowell Forge. Now, although it's all yellow, the single line going off towards the Erewash Canal and the bottom centre of the shot, that was actually an industrial tramway. So in this instance it should be a different colour, like a turquoise as per the previous map. Here it is in greater detail on the map from the mid 1800s. You can see all the buildings of Trowell Forge and looped around with the railway track coming off the Erewash Valley Line at Trowell Junction, and it does indeed state tramway look, heading down towards a small wharf on the Erewash Canal. An alternate map here from around 1910, 1912, it does still show Trowell Forge look, but underneath it says disused. You can just make it out, so it has closed by then, but the map's still showing all the track work. So standing in the middle of this field, what I can piece together right now is that there, the original, what I believe is the embankment to the track bed, was the siding that shot off to join onto the canal. That joined onto the loop, and the outer edge of the loop, the western side, goes around that way. So what I'm expecting to see the other side of this is where the main grounds for these ironworks, this forge, was, and there also would have been the loop back for that circular track bed that we've just been talking about. So this is where the lay of the land of the majority of all of the forge buildings would have been, and mainline track access being just over there. Again, I'm still assuming that is the circular line of the track bed going around like that. And once it came around, it would have joined on to the main line just about here, because the River Erewash is over there, probably about 100 metres or so, and it did join on just before that, and where Trowell Junction is on the opposite side of those bushes just there. Now there is a fifth railway line that connects onto the Erewash Valley Line that I would like to mention, because I'd love to know your thoughts of what is actually going on with it. The Stanton Ironworks branch, which comes away from the Erewash Valley Line where the M1 motorway passes above, that's been out of action since the late 1990s to early 2000s. In 2019 I did in fact walk this branch where this footage has been taken from, and then around about a year later a lot of work was undertaken on bringing this trackbed to life, removing all the debris, the trees, the lorries which were overhanging onto the trackbed. All of it was cleared and test trains were sent up there, I believe for the purposes of scrap metal workings, and also construction for the site previously occupied by Stanton Ironworks. Now this track is all still down from 5 years ago when it was all reworked and fixed up in places, but I believe nothing has ran down there for about 5 years. What's your thoughts on this one? What is happening to the branch of the Erewash Valley Line into the old Stanton Ironworks? I do hope you've enjoyed watching this video looking at the disused railway lines of the Erewash Valley, and some of them, if not all of them, you may not have heard of before. Please like, subscribe, comment below any more suggestions and what you thought of this type of video too. Thank you to all channel members and Facebook subscribers. See you in the next one. Bye for now.